Okay.
1 second. There it is. Got it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting, March the 22nd, 2022. We will call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. in council chambers. And first of all, we need the approval of the agenda. And are there any late items, Mrs. Robinson? No, thank you. So could we have a motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. And next is the adoption of some minutes, and that would be the committee of the whole minutes from March the 8th. We need a motion to adopt those, please. Councillor King, Councillor Harvey, all in favor. Thank you. And we have two petitions today. Do we have the outdoor pickleball presentation? Are they online?
Brian was going to join us via online, but I don't see him in there
Maybe
yet.
you switch it with the chamber first.
Yeah. I just want to check because he was scheduled
He
first.
was scheduled
So
first.
if he is not online at the moment, if everybody's all right, we will go with the second presentation first, and that would be Ms. Blaschko from the South Okanagan Chamber of Commerce. And welcome, Denise. And I just want to say thank you for your presentation that you did the other day. I heard you at the ETSI on a Zoom call that I was on with that, and talking about Work BC and the wage program and all of the good things. So thank you. So welcome this morning. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Morning, everyone. Excited to be here because I haven't been here probably ever since I came back. So it's great to be able to catch up with everyone here and share what we've been working on. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Denise Blaschko, and I'm here on behalf of the South Okanagan Chamber. We have a growing team, so I'm here on behalf of them, and they will come to the next couple of meetings to introduce themselves and let you know what they're specifically working on. But I'm going to highlight what has come up for our chamber over these last couple of years, and then what we're doing moving into 2022. So as some of you may know, it's our 75th anniversary. So it's an exciting time for us, as of course shop local is becoming such a popular phrase these days. We like to say that we've been supporting local since 1947 in our region. And as some of you know, we used to be 3 individual chambers, but then we came together in 2009. I believe Myers Bennett was part of that whole transition there, so that we could work together as a region, as well as maximize our resources. So we're going to be having a few extra special promotions and special events through the year that will certainly send out invitations for anyone to join us as we celebrate. As some of you know or may not know, we are a virtual chamber now, and that actually happened before COVID. In 2018-19, they shifted into being a virtual chamber. Because we cover the region, it was just much easier to be out and about and physically going to see the businesses and talking and having meetings in the region, as opposed to someone having to man an office or a woman in office. So that worked well for us as the transition came with COVID, because we were already set up remote, we were already virtual and operating in that way. So just wanted to share a few things. Even though we're small, we like to say we're small but mighty, but throughout that first year of COVID, we answered the phones, daytime, nighttime, weekends, for anything that came up. And it was an emotional time because businesses and travelers were really stressed. So that was good for us to be able to be resourceful and be able to answer all those calls and help everybody that was struggling through that time. So we did that for about 1.5 years. And as we moved into understanding what this was going to look like for us, we went remote. Of course, Zoom has become our best friend, and what we do all of our events on and our meetings, and is working for us because we're regional. And though even OK Falls sometimes wouldn't come to Osoyoos, and Osoyoos may not come because of weather or other things that may be happening, it's been so great for us because our board has been able to connect more. We have a couple of ambassadors for the first time, and we're going to have a couple more ambassadors coming on as we get things solidified. So it has been sort of a struggle for us for a couple of years through COVID on many levels, but yet we've grown and succeeded in so many ways just because our community has come together and been able to amplify what we're doing. So as Jim mentioned earlier, we are having our AGM tomorrow, so we'll be getting a board coming in. We only lost one board member and we've gained 4 or 5. So we should really have a great year as we have the ambassadors and our board members to be able to help us maximize our staff time. So as some of you know, and Mayor McCordoff just mentioned, we did get CBC funding last year. So that was very exciting for us because it just allowed us to have more people and more boots on the ground, as I call it. So I transitioned from the staff person to the business recovery advisor. I applied and was successful in the application, and we hired Troy Lucas to come on with us, and he's a hospitality and restaurant owner and expert in that area. So it was a great tag team between him and I to walk through all of the communities. Soyuz Indian Band, Okanagan Falls, all of our Soyuz, talk to the businesses one-on-one, find out how they're doing, see where we could help, filling out applications, getting people online with websites, helping with wage subsidy, even just having someone to talk to, because everyone felt quite isolated. At certain times, certainly the business owners felt a bit like, oh my gosh, I got to take care of my staff, my customers. So that has been phenomenal. As we did that, we did surveys, of course, marketing and HR and staffing came up as number 1 and 2, of course. So we've been doing some training with people, extra special consultants helping certain businesses with marketing and online. And so that has been really good because it's just a good connection with businesses and to let them know, got to make time to work on your business, right? Not just always being the day-to-day of the business. So that was really, really good. And so now our funding actually comes up here at the end of the month, but fingers crossed that we may be one of the lucky ones that gets 3 to 4 months extension possibly, or possibly more. We will apply for other grants as they come up, but we would like to continue because, as some of you know, fires, floods, heat, all of that, a lot of businesses just didn't have the time to work on their business. Now they do. So they're reaching out to us now, and I'm hoping that we're not going to be ending here in the next few weeks. So we'll let everybody know about that as soon as we do know. Just so everyone knows, I don't know, I'm a chamber champion, but the chamber network is amazing. It's just unbelievable how many chambers are in the province and across the country, how much work all the chambers do. And so our BC chamber and our Okanagan regional chamber, we have met pretty much, especially through the first year and second year, weekly, right? You know, and then our executive director of the BC chambers would text the premier, right? Like saying, hey, this is the struggles that we're hearing in our network. So sort of the big things I wanted to share with you is that what came out of all of this is advocacy, and that our rural voices really need to be heard. And so we, as our chamber, need to play that role, because sometimes we get lost in the cities and the lower mainland and Coquitlam and all of that, because they're just so much bigger, and Surrey and all of that, they just have so much more staff and power and all of that. But I'm happy to report that I was pretty much at every meeting that we could be at on a provincial level, as well as regionally here, to make sure our small towns are heard. So the big things that came from that was advocacy. As you know, a lot of businesses couldn't qualify for a lot of the funding that was out there because they didn't meet the thresholds of the revenue or the staffing and all of that. So a lot of our businesses could have used some support, but they just couldn't qualify. So we preached that all along, but we're really going to push and help our regional chamber talk about that, because we just got missed all along. I'm sure some of you know, we meet with Rolly Russell on a regular basis to let him know that as well. So hopefully our voices, you know, collectively will start to be heard. I shared 2 links with you there on the agenda. I'm just excited to share that we've started again with the help of that CBC and the provincial government. We've got Richard McGuire writing professional stories for us and taking photographs. So hopefully you've seen some of those. South Okanagan Stories, we're calling it, and it's the faces behind the businesses in the South Okanagan. And so people are loving that, because, you know, sometimes when you do those interviews, Richard's been getting some interesting comments there and just little tidbits that maybe people didn't know about the owners or the staff. And so we've been converting those stories into just short videos, which of course you all know the world is moving into short snippet videos. So we're building our website with the blog to encourage businesses to look at our area to maybe start a business, bring their families here. Yes, I know we have to work on the housing challenges, but it sounds like there's some exciting things in place. Yeah, so then Two other things that came on the walk for you. Requests were for more communication between the town, the chamber, and the businesses. Businesses were so busy, sometimes they saw emails, sometimes they didn't see emails, sometimes they saw Facebook, sometimes they didn't, and they didn't know some of the things that might have been going on. And I know, Gina, we've talked about before, like, yeah, how do we get to those businesses, right? How do we get them to see our emails, open our emails? So that came out. And then more coordination of beautification and activation of the downtown. They kept asking, are we gonna have an event? Are we gonna have Thursday night late nights open? Are we gonna be able to help coordinate that? So those were sort of the two things that came up that I felt that perhaps the chamber and staff and council could talk about in the future about doing that more formally together, or that we just help each other do it. So we're looking at starting up a newsletter specific for downtown Osoyoos businesses. And we've got all the cards, and we just got to data enter that into our email system so that we can help share information as Dana or other staff share it with us. We can share it through there. Again, sometimes they might be signed up for your newsletter system, but perhaps if they see it a couple times, we can get a little bit more engagement from them. So those were those two things. And the one last thing I'll share, just because it's so broad, food security. That came up over and over again, as we saw with the floods and all of that. It was just kind of shocking how we didn't have some food, but yet we have farmers in the region driving to Vancouver to take their food because they have nowhere to bring it here easily. So we know for sure that advocating on behalf of the rural businesses and food security is going to get brought forward to our new board members that will get brought in tomorrow, and they'll be our top two advocacy that we're working on moving forward. So that's kind of all my pieces I wanted to share with everybody.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, your enthusiasm is keeping the chamber going big time, so that's good. I just wondered what I wrote down business walks on. Now I can remember years ago getting something, was from West Kelowna, and the lady that did it up there sent it to me, and we did something on that. We went around and talked to businesses and had just about 3 questions that we asked them. And that was fun. And I think it was done again as well. But that might make businesses feel more like they're being part of it. I don't know whether that's been done for a while, probably not.
Yeah, and October, we typically do a more formal business walk.
Okay.
This was just us walking up and down the streets because it
Sure.
was, people were closed half the time, open, who knows, it took a while to hit those people, but yes, we did it with you. I can't remember what year, 2016, maybe 17. We did a formal business walk with you, and we will do that again. It's in our calendar for
Sure.
October to reach out to do a formal business walk with the town.
Good. And so go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess the question, when's the provincial chamber AGM?
Very soon in Prince George. They just announced that they're physically doing it and they're
Wow.
working on the hotels and everything. We delayed it by a couple weeks, so I believe it's like the beginning of June.
So are you looking to take in any resolutions to the provincial AGM?
We did not, because we were so focused on the ground business recovery advisors here, we didn't have an advocacy committee. The one thing that was coming up was the food security, but our counterparts in the Okanagan are taking those forward for us.
And you'll be supporting them with
Yeah.
letters, I presume. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
So can you kind of give the council some idea of some of the directors kind of, because it's really, you've really moved out stretch. It's not just a few downtown businesses from each location. And when you're talking about the farmers, different people, some of your directors have very diverse backgrounds, and it'd be kind of interesting for them to know that some of the people that are directors that
Oh, sure, yeah.
right from OK Falls all the way down.
Yeah, so we have Jim Georgeson in Okie Falls. He's owns a dentist office there. He's one of our community champions, and he's fighting hard to help Okie Falls. As we move down, we've got Ryan Duffy is our current president, and he's a real estate person. He's with Remax now, so he covers the South Okanagan, the whole area. So he's got that regional mindset, which is really great. Devinder Sandhu is with Century 21 here in Osoyoos. He's on our board. We're probably going to be acclaimed tomorrow, so we've got a few people putting their names forward, like One Tree Bookkeeping here in Osoyoos. A lady named Nancy Summerfeld. She also owns her own small positively organized business. She's put her name forward because she wants to help. And Lindsay from Refill Philosophy, Refill Bar in Oliver, she's on there. She wants to bring green in environment and help us be more sustainable in our business practices. So she's coming on board. Exhale Art Gallery in Oliver, just again, they love downtown and the heart of downtown and how do we make each of our downtowns on the highway more attractive, right? And I'm going to forget a couple of people there. Sarah from Watermark Beach Resort, she's on board and she's sticking with us moving forward. Some of you probably saw that Greg Soul was with us for a couple of years, but he's got a couple of projects, so he stepped back for a bit. But we've had some really great support. Bob Urbanovich, Interior Savings, he's part of the board too, which helps us get strongly on the financial side of things. And again, we have a few more people putting their names forward. Polka Dot Gifts in Oliver, not here in Soyuz, but Polka Dot Gifts there. So we do have a nice representation from the Soyuz Oliver. We always need a little bit more from OK Falls, but they're small and just getting going on a few things. So I think that's the main board members.
One question. About how many members do you have?
We're hanging steady at about 236.
Right.
And so interestingly, yeah, this will be our challenging year. People made it through the last couple of years, but we are starting to see a few of them retire early because that was just hard for them. Close now because they've stretched their money too thin and they, get out while they can. So next year is going to be the big year on that membership renewal, but 236. And because it's our 75th anniversary, we're doing a big campaign to try to get more. Because people want to be invited, I'm finding, right? They kind of know about us, but as soon as we invite them, they come on board. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go start inviting everybody.
So are you looking to have some type of big celebration maybe on the date of your anniversary?
Yeah, so the date technically in our books that we found was March 1, 1947. And so of course that was originally, we were very close, Oliver and the Soyuz Chamber were very close on our incorporation dates, but March 1 was the earliest. Phantom Creek. We're just getting that arranged for May because they're the largest organization that can host us safely, hopefully for, maybe 75 people will get for our 75th anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you got some money from ETCDC. It was last year, wasn't it? Or in the
Yeah,
fall?
we're just finishing the tail end to get our final report out.
So please continue to support. I'm a director on that, so I've been involved with it for the last couple of years. It's just gone through a whole transformation. It was called CITIT at one point. Yeah, CITIT, and it's changed to CBC. We're not allowed to say CITIT anymore. And so it's what they're doing is trying to help small businesses and small communities and not just assume that all of the bigger communities are going to get help. So please continue. I was glad to see that that the chamber got some money last year. Continue because there's another intake and it happens 2 or 3 times a year. We're not into loans anymore. That was not working. And so we're out of that and we're just trying to build up some equity in ETCBC and give out loans, give out grants. So that's a really positive thing. You don't have to pay them back. You just have to apply for them. So continue to do that.
Yeah.
All communities should, especially small ones.
Yeah, and that's the nice part about them is that, not all of our business want to go to online, as I'm sure all of you know. So we're looking at how can we help the businesses that don't want to? They love the retail, they love the face-to-face. So we want to put on dedicated training for them. There's lots of money to go online and compete in that big online world, but we're hoping to be able to do something because our businesses love the face-to-face and that's what makes our community.
Absolutely. And supporting local businesses has certainly been something that we've always pushed. So we certainly are in favor of that. Okay, well, thank you very much, Denise. We appreciate having you come and fill us in on what's going on. Good luck at your AGM tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
And on your 75th birthday. So and it was Asuyas' 75th birthday last year, 1946. And I think it's the credit union. Was it last year? Yes, last year as well. Yeah, lots of people having that. Okay, thank you very much. So do we have any contact with the pickleball people? No. All right, so we will then go on to the next item that we have on here, and that would be Community services grants, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When I do my reports, I tend to think sometimes that I'm going to do them verbatim, and then other times I'll just beat around the bush to get to the point. But being on the accessibility and age-friendly committee, we have a person on there who's visually impaired. So I do verbatim. So I apologize if that's not the.
Don't worry, I think we should hear it all, so go ahead.
The community services grants policies intended to financially assist nonprofit organizations and community groups who are active in the community and who provide a service to the town of Vesuvius. The grant program closed on February 25th of this year, and staff is bringing a recommendation forward for council's consideration. Requests can be submitted for a one-time special event, community development, rental of facilities, insurance costs, and travel for sports events. The review committee is made up of myself, Councillor King, and Councillor Bennett. We received 17. I'm going to say we received 18 because I received another one yesterday, which wasn't received by us, but it was sent on the 17th of January, and I will include that in the list when I read through them. Applications and more than $100,000 in requests. Staff has attached an Excel spreadsheet with more detailed information. The total budget for the grant program was set at $61,000, and that includes $2,000 for sports teams. We reviewed the applications and shortlisted all relevant requests. Once the potential list was identified, we reviewed the criteria to make sure they were all still eligible, and we allocated as much funding as we could to all deserving applicants. So the applicants who applied, the Vesuvius Secondary is a bursary that we provide annually for $4,500. The fireworks for Canada Day, another annual for $8,000. The Desert Sun Counseling, Community Kitchen, which was done in the last few years for $5,000. Artists on Main would be for insurance and startup costs for $1,000. Festival Society for events and insurance at $4,500. Vesuvius Elk Senior Citizen Society, that would be the municipal portion of taxes at around $2,000. The Desert Pickleball Club for shade sales at $3,000, a one-time request. The Lake Vesuvius Sailing Club for defibrillator and training, and also for an accessibility improvement at $5,200. The Portuguese Canadian Cultural Society for upgrades to their building at $20,000. The Vesuvius Elks Lodge for exterior door improvements for $4,000. The Vesuvius Child Care Center for exterior building reno at $5,000. The Vesuvius Curling Club for an alarm system improvements for $1,900. The Rotary Club for a rental skate program for $3,000. The Wide Arts National Association for an event for Hallows Eve for $5,000 for a market event. The Vesuvius Lawn Bowling Club for the purchase of a top dresser for $13,470. The Mental Wellness Center for the youth program for $4,000. Royal Canadian Legion for murals and lights at $4,500. Desert Park Exhibition Society for an open house event for $5,000. And sports teams and individuals, we have a budget item for $2,000, which is here until it's actually used throughout the year. And that total came to $99,070 plus the extra one that we got from the Vesuvius Lake Water Quality Society for $1,000. So in light of that, and after going through our recommendations, we are recommending the following. So the Vesuvius Secondary School, $4,500 for bursaries. The fireworks for $8,000. Desert Sun Counseling for $5,000. Artists on Main, $1,000. Festival Society, $3,000. The Vesuvius Elks Senior Citizen Society, which is the Golden Villa. This is estimated at $2,200 for the municipal portion of the property tax. Desert Pickleball Club for $3,000. Lake Osoyoos Sailing Club for $2,600. The Portuguese Canadian Cultural Club, we felt that this amount was a little bit high and it's really not applicable for this type of grant funding. So we will be contacting them for a capital project improvement. Osoyoos Elks Lodge for $4,000. The grant request of $1,000 for the Osoyoos Lake Water Quality. The Osoyoos Child Care Center for $5,000. Osoyoos Curling Club for $1,900. The Rotary Club of Osoyoos, $1,000. The Wide Arcs National Association, we felt that the funding that they were looking at could be a potential RMI funding opportunity, so we would send them to that. The Osoyoos Lawn Bowling Club, again, the minimum amount they requested was over $13,000, and it's a little higher than we would normally do for a project of this size. The Mental Wellness Center, we would provide $500 as part of their application. They were going to offset their wages, so that wouldn't be applicable. The Royal Canadian Legion, $4,500. Desert Park Exhibition Society, $2,000. And we have the $2,000 for the sports teams and individuals. We had a U13 provincial hockey tournament that we were recommending the $500 from that particular area. And we also got another grant application on Friday for the U15. They're actually in Little Lake. So the options here is for council to approve this recommendation and bring to a regular meeting of council for adoption. Option 2, for council to discuss changes within the recommended amounts and groups being funded and proceed to a regular meeting of council for adoption. And option 3, for council to instruct staff to make changes to the recommendations and bring back at a later time for discussion. In terms of implications for the community, a number of these grant requests are annual funding for special events and enhancements to facilities in the community. Some of these events have a long history, such as the Cherry Fiesta. The community support and appreciation for this funding has been instrumental over the years. Organizationally, the application process for the special events for staff to be involved and the follow-up with specific one-time projects. The budget and the financial risk and implications, we have a total budget of $61,000 and the recommended amount right now are at $51,200. We have a balance still, it says here $10,800, but we will say it's at $9,800 with the $1,000 recommending for their water quality. And sustainability. Many of these projects and events rely on the grant funding to be sustainable, and some may not proceed if the funding wasn't available or approved. We consulted with our committee and with our deputy CAO, and the recommendation.
Thank you very much. You also sent us something, an email this morning.
Yes.
I asked Mr. Davis if it would be possible to have a look and see what grants were given out for the last 2 years, because of course with COVID, many things were not able to proceed. And so I just thought it was interesting to have a look at that. I do know that you know, some of the things did happen and some of the money was spent. My main concern is when I looked at this was I realized that the fireworks, $8,000 is quite a large amount for them, but they have been waiting to put on the 25th anniversary and they haven't had any money for the last 2 years. On the other hand, and I'm not on the executive of the Osoyoos Festival Society, but I've certainly been a member for many, many years. My concern with that is that it's, I understand that they did send and ask for $7,500. I think they sent him one report ask and then they updated it. So it now looks like there's 3,000. I guess my concern on that one, and it's just because I know more about that one than others. They are putting on 3 very large events this year. But for the last 2 years, they have put on 3 events a year, just not nearly as involved as the usual ones, like the parade and that type of thing. So I wanted to see if they had received anything last year or the year before. But according to this council, this is 2020 that you sent in the email today, they're not on there for
That is correct. They didn't get any funding in 2020. 2021, they got 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just know that it's going to cost quite a lot this year to put on Easter and July 1st and Christmas, because we anticipate that there will be parades for 2 of those, not Easter. And I'm just, that was why I was kind of looking at this. I know that some of the other things have, you know, they're one-off things, or it's continuing on, and COVID didn't have as much to do with it. But there is one thing on here, and that's in 2020, the Elks Lodge got $5,000 for accessible doors, and now they're asking for $4,000 for exterior doors. Those are 2 different
Yeah.
types of doors. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not the same doors
No,
being done
that's
again. Okay, so that's my concern. And the other thing is for the sports teams. I think that $2,000 is going to be spent pretty quickly, but they do have to apply for it. Am I correct? If they want $500, so 2 of them have now.
Yeah, that's right.
They certainly, the hockey teams here have you know, done really well. I mean, 3 teams going to the provincials is pretty amazing for a small town or a small area, I guess, South Okanagan. So that was my only concern about this, and I do appreciate you sending this. I'm wondering if there is a way to, there may be other things that we could look at. Sorry, go ahead, Director Davis, and then
We have
Councilor
an
Rhodes.
option to change anything we go on.
Yeah, no, but it's not up to me.
Yeah, that was my only thing. Originally, the Festival Society applied for $4,500. It wasn't 75.
They did update it, though. They told me that they
Okay.
had sent in a renewed one, that's all.
Okay.
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, and again, it would be up to council as a whole to make that recommendation. And I don't think the committee has any objections to that at all. We were just, you know, lining everything up and making sure everybody had something. We do have a fairly substantial amount left.
sure.
And even, and I think, you know, even if we had, say, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 left, the $2,000 were allocated and another team did or something, obviously it could come back to council for that approval as well. Even though, you know, until it's spent in its entirety, and I know Mr. Zackel wouldn't want to hear spending money frivolously, but I understand that. And that's good, that's a good compliment. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Director Davis, you answered my question. I wanted clarity on the 75 and what was actually applied for. I have absolutely no problem with bumping that amount up. I would like to suggest that maybe through a motion of some kind, which is not really what we do in the committee of the whole, so I need some guidance as to.
Yeah, how do we do that when this is a suggestion only? Yes, go ahead.
So if we make that recommendation here, I still gotta go to the public meeting this afternoon for approval, so I will read those again at the meeting this afternoon. And if we wanted, or if council wanted that updated, they could approve it at that time. That's all really.
Yeah,
We're
I think
just making amendments here, aren't we? And then you bring this up in.
Yeah, we still ask for direction from council if it was coming to regular or having further information or things of that nature. So the resolution of council to basically state bring this forward to the regular meeting of council with the one change.
Okay, I would like to.
Sorry, I'm wondering if there might be other changes before we go ahead and do anything more. There could be other questions that councilors, yeah, okay, Councilor King and Councilor
Thank you,
Rhodes.
Madam Mayor. I guess with so much action with the sports teams, I would like to bump that up to maybe 2,500. So if a request comes in, you wouldn't have to come back to council to ask if they go over the 2,000.
Go ahead.
We would still bring it to council for the decision, even though the money's in the budget. If the sports team makes a request,
Okay.
we earmarked 2,000 to ensure that we got 2,000 in there. What Councilor Dave or Director Davis, I'm sorry, Joe, had said, if there was excess money available in our grant and aid budget, and we'd already fully spent our $2,000 that we had allotted for sports teams, there's nothing wrong with Director Davis bringing forward to request of a sports team for another $500 usage on it. So it's, you know, we don't have to earmark it for it.
You know, I guess I look at it the other point of view. This year, we've kind of got it lower and there could be some other changes before we finalize this. But all of a sudden, if this come in at about 59,000, we got 59,000, there is no room for that extra sports team.
Correct, yeah.
So I still look at moving it up to 2,500, even though you have to come back. It just puts a solid number in there that leaves a sex amount to give up to nonprofit.
So we're just at 5,100, right?
It's 2,000 at the bottom one, sports team individual.
Yeah, I know, but the total that was
Yeah, well, 51.
allocated,
We got
okay,
59.
go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Sorry,
um,
CJ. you're
So if we bump it up, as an example, another $500, would that mean we would be at 61,500? Or are we capping it at 61 and just allocating more for sports team?
I was just keeping it at 61, but just taking like adding 5 more to this one.
So again, what the deputy Jim said would be, you know, similar, I guess.
So can we hear from a few others and then we'll decide? Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
Yeah, so I hadn't really finished with the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wanted to make a suggestion that we bump it up to the full ask amount, which would be the 4,500 plus the 3,000. That seems to be part of the numbers are obvious or in front of us. They asked for 4,500. I would like to see that at 7,500. Which I think was the full ask.
Did
Never
you get a
see the answer
second?
to 3 of them.
Okay, you did good. So if you didn't get it, then we need to deal with that first.
But
Maybe.
that's, sorry, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
What I have here is the one that I received, because I got another one, and this is the one that I got the hard copy.
And it was for 45.
45.
Okay, well, I was at a meeting last night and they said they asked for 75. So that's all. Go ahead. Mr.
In
Zappa.
addition to the grant and aid that we'd be providing for the Festival Society, the town also pays for the insurance for these special events. That's over and above this contribution. So we've got in our policy, it lists the special events that are approved, which are Cherry Fiesta, Easter parades, Christmas, right up and that. And we've got a budget line item that covers those insurance costs. So I think when they were originally reviewing this and critiquing it, there was a portion of the funding that was they had listed as insurance
That's correct.
on it.
On their budget.
They put insurance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
having that ability for council to say, okay, well, we want to give you the grant and aid for the cash that you're going to spend. But the town is also covering off the insurance portion,
right.
which is over and above the amount that we're getting, so.
But in your report, it says Festival Society and it says annual and insurance as part of the 3,000. That's why I was questioning it. Go ahead, Councilor Rhodes.
So, so that we don't digress, I'd like to remind everybody that it's been 2 years, we haven't had it. It is by far the largest event this community could ever imagine, if not one of the biggest events in the entire Okanagan. And I feel perfectly comfortable giving them the amount that they asked for. Don't know exactly what that is. Is it 45 or 75? If it's
Maybe.
45, I would support either. in the month.
Yeah, maybe if they're including the insurance in that, in the 75, then we need to deduct that because they've already got that from the town. Go ahead.
I can check just to make sure because we never received one for the water quality for whatever reason. And I got it from one of their board members yesterday, only because they had actually read the council report, the committee of the whole report online. And we're wondering why they weren't even mentioned in a request. So if in fact that the Festival Society requested 75, I can incorporate that into a report for this afternoon and still show what the actual, balance would be along with the water quality. And I can say that in 2019, so 3 years ago, the Festival Society got 7,000. So it was kind of in line with that. The last couple of years, they've only asked for a lower amount, and I'm assuming it's because they didn't think they could do as much or anything at all, which they didn't in 2020.
Well, they did some things, but it was quite a bit less. It was without parades because they couldn't have the parades. So that was why. But anyway, is it possible for you to check with them? Shirley Baker is the treasurer, and just see, and if you would be able to bring a report back. I'm not sure whether that is that possible to bring one back this afternoon? Wasn't on our agenda anyway, was it? So it doesn't have to be. It wasn't. We could have brought it back. What do you think, Mr. Zacco?
He can bring back the information for council of what the actual financial request is.
Okay,
And council can make that decision at that time, what they are willing to support.
okay,
We can do individual resolutions with respect to these grant and aids.
okay.
So we can deal with that and council can debate that. Joe can get a little more information as far as how much in there was related to insurance so that council's making the appropriate
Yeah. I
decision
think we should.
with respect to how much they wish to give.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I could see supporting it at the 4,500 myself, and from what I've heard, they get the 3,000 sidebar for insurance. We go to 75 and the 3, then they're up to 10,500, so I think at 45 and then the 3 from the other, that's already in the budget, would make a lot of sense.
And I do too. So if you're gonna check with that for this afternoon, I'd appreciate
Not a
that.
problem.
Is there, does anybody have any other concerns about the, this report, community service grants? Go ahead, Director, Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Question for the Director Davis, I think. There's an application from Desert Pickleball Club. There was on the agenda a presentation from the Asuyas Pickleball Association, Inc. And I'm just trying to get straight in my mind, who's who and what are we funding and why one versus another, or, I understand that there's 3 pickleball associations in the community, but I'm not sure.
Yes, I can answer that.
Thank you.
Councillor Harvey. The actual club, I think, who's online now going to speak, is a different association than the pickleball club that actually has applied for this funding. The pickleball club that's actually applied for the funding for the shade sales are actually doing some fundraising to get shade at the outdoor pickleball courts. And I think they're in the vicinity of $45,000 to $50,000. And they're asking for $3,000 to help offset that. So they've applied for some other grant funding as well. The other group that's going to be presenting to council today is in fact a different registered pickleball club or association. The third pickleball club association is an elite pickleball group that are fewer numbers that play more diehard and got more experience and expertise than the other 2, but I wouldn't say they're the elite of the other 2 by any means. So
That's confusing. Sorry, it is a little bit.
welcome to community service.
So does that answer your question, Councillor Harvey?
Well, yes, but you're right. I come away confused, like why 3?
Yeah.
Anyway, but that's among, I guess that's for the associations to get together or not.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I think just to add a little bit of conversation, because we went through the grants, this 3,000 for these, they're for sales or for shade for their pickleball courts outside. This funding is subject to them actually getting the other grants, or this funding would go ahead.
That's correct. Yeah. And if they didn't actually utilize that funding, they would report that back, and that funding would have to be returned. That's correct.
Okay. So we will wait then for this afternoon for a further report from Mr. Davis. Is that where we're at? Okay. All right, thank you. And so now we can go back, and do I understand that and can you tell us what the name of the group is that is on?
Yes, so, once I have a motion for this, so we can finish it into in a second.
So-
And then we have Brian Becknell,
Okay.
Pickleball, he has come on, later than his scheduled time.
Right,
So Madam Mayor, it's up to you
to council,
to, accept his presentation still.
We're gonna make a motion and move
Yeah,
this
so
to
first
this
we gotta
afternoon.
move.
all right,
yeah,
so we
first
need a motion to
Yeah.
move the report to this, an updated report to this afternoon.
yeah.
Councillor Rhodes, are you making that motion?
Yes, and I believe it would be number 3, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I'll move to stop recommended option number 3.
Thank you very much. And are you seconding that, Councillor Bennett? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. Now, we have a request from Mr. Bagnall from the indoor-outdoor pickleball, but I'm not exactly sure which group it is. It would not be the Desert Pickleball Club. This would be a different group, and they would like to make a presentation. Council, this is later than expected. Is everybody okay with accepting this report now? Jim, you're making that motion. Do we need a motion on this, Miss, to accept this? No, we don't. We're just gonna go back to the presentation from Mr. Bagnall. Are you there, Mr. Bagnall?
I am, just hang on, I was just putting sunscreen on. Hang on a sec,
Okay.
2 secs. Oh, I've been waiting for 45 minutes, so hang on, I'm right there.
Well, I'm sorry, you didn't show up on our screen, so we did not know that you were there. Sorry. There was nothing to show that you were there.
I've been hanging on for a while. You know, it's funny because when you actually wait long enough on Zoom Chrome here, it kicks out to ads. So I kept having to kind of, I just opened it up again and again, and it said they're going to let you in a few seconds, minutes, then seconds, and then wait.
All right, well, you're here now.
it's all good.
So would you like to make your presentation? Thank you very much.
Yes, before we get
Which group you, as you know, we've just been discussing that you're not the Desert Pickleball Club. Can you tell us which group you represent?
I represent the nonprofit corporation, the federal one, the same one that did the presentation back in February of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So before we get started, though, there's a couple of things. One of them was that you were going to hold a meeting because there may have been other interested parties in using the old curling rink. That was one of the things that was brought up at the meeting. We asked for the building, and you said there were going to be consultations. There never was. So here we are a year later. The next thing is, before we get started, is Fred Hamilton present in the room?
No.
Okay. I would like him to declare his recusal from any discussion regarding our presentation. I am prepared to do an in-camera meeting with council where I would like to have him removed from the committee of this community service advisory committee. I can air it now if you wish, which would be a public record, I think it would, for everybody concerned, it would be better if it was in camera later.
This is a committee of the whole meeting, and this is open to the public. And so anything you say here is going to be available to anybody on the public. I don't.
I won't bring that up then. We'll do it later. I won't bring it up now. We're not going to air dirty laundry in public here.
Councillor Rhodes, he wanted to interject here. Go ahead, Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Bagnall, you need to introduce yourself and who you are. Personally, I have seen you present here a long time ago. I mean, you're here at a committee of the whole meeting. We need to know who you are and.
Sure. How about if I get started by sharing my screen with the presentation and we can go through it that way? That's probably the best way to do it. I've got a PowerPoint presentation and it'll actually bring all that into play. So you'll get so I am here representing the Osoyoos Pickleball Association, which is a federal nonprofit to grow the game in the South Okanagan, is one of the mission statement of it. It is a complete nonprofit. There is no money involved for myself. And also, let me here, let's see where we share the screen here. Okay, here we go. And we'll share my screen, desktop. Share. I think we got it. Can you see my screen?
No.
Share. Can you see it now? I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here's.
All right. Thank you.
Can you see that now? Presentation to the town. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's the first slide right there. Presentation to the Osoyoos Town Council, 22nd of March, 2022. We did one a year ago, 2021, and no action was taking place on that. We were hoping for something. It is the Osoyoos Pickleball Association, a federally incorporated nonprofit. It was incorporated a few years ago. The sport of pickleball in North America has grown exponentially. It's just crazy. I'm actually down here right now in Palm Springs, and the facility that I'm a member of, 3 years ago, I believe it had 150 members. We were the first guys in there. It now has 28 courts and 800 members. They had to cap the membership. Lots of Canadians down here. Pickleball in the South Okanagan, there's been an explosion of facilities in all over Penticton, Peachland, Kelowna, Burnham, which did the build. It took them quite a bit to do it. I fortunately had access to all their files from Rob Irving, who was kind enough to share them with me, going through their build. Right now, pickleball in Osoyoos, the existing facilities are the 3 indoor courts, the Sonora Center gym, limited time slots. Obviously, this gym is used for other things and closed off at times to sell for weddings or et cetera, which I suppose don't happen right now. Or maybe it's been opened up. 1 indoor court at Desert Park with limited access. We've been using that for the paddle masters have access to it, which is is a different club altogether from Desert Pickleball Club. And also their teaching goes on there. There's 4 outdoor courts adjacent to the tennis courts, which are contaminated with feces, pathogens, and urine. I provided a sample to the town from the lab in Kelowna. I did not want to enter any scientific discussion about it. I just handed it off to Gerald and let him deal with it rather than bring it up into public or anything else. The growth of interest has dramatically outpaced the current facility capacity, which Gerald had indicated that they could certainly use more courts. The future of pickleball in Osoyoos. Lots of retirees relocating, snowbirds, vacationers. The youth expansion through school physical education programs, growth within existing population, the sport's getting younger. It used to be the average age was over 60. It's now down around 43. I've been involved with putting a school program together. There's an open learning module for both elementary and middle school out of the US, which has all of the checklists for physical education for cognitive, psychomotor, and affective domains, so they can actually use it for the physical education program and actually evaluate the students. In looking at that, I've been in touch with Wayne Elderton in the North Shore Tennis Center. I've known Wayne for many, many years. He is an international level 4 coach for tennis, and they've got a youth program down there. And we would be looking at doing that up here as well, where after school hours, they block the courts off. And I've asked Wayne for more information as to the actual hours, but typically it would be 3:45. You know, as soon as they get out of school, they would come down to the facility and we would take them through lessons, starting from the beginning. And so that's the after school stuff, or it can be made available during the school if they wanted to, but preferably would be after, like they've been doing in North Vancouver. The model works, and it's been extremely successful in North Vancouver. The economic development opportunities, major spring and fall tournaments, about a $300,000 infusion with hotel and resort demand expansions. We looked at doing it in spring and fall tournaments, not doing it in the summer to compete with the car shows and other things that go on in the summer, was to try to get some money into the town on the shoulder season, because I guess pandemic has changed a lot of the dynamics here, but it may roll back to the way it was. The residential demand expansion, and you can see the new buildings that are going up. Diversified activity for tourism in the local community. It is amazing what it will draw. There's people moving into Vernon because of the facility. Being able to play indoors and outside, especially Osoyoos has a tremendous amount of wind. There's lots of days where it's difficult to play outside, where an indoor facility that was dedicated to pickleball would be wonderful. The current state of the Osoyoos pickleball facilities, outdoors court needs to be resurfaced, major cracking, drainage issues we just discussed from dog park. Reorientation to north-south exposure accommodates sun and physical distancing, which just even turned and 4 feet added to the south, west, and north side of the facility. You end up with a 14-foot difference between the courts going sideways, with only one division down the middle rather than the way it's set up right now, with 3 in between each of the courts with very little room. I think there's less than 8 feet between the post and the divider, which is too low anyway. It's not even at the height of a standard railing, which is, I believe it's 42 inches. The indoor courts, there's not enough courts, very limited hours and use relative to interest. The Sonora gym's too small really for 3 proper courts. The courts aren't separated by any standard of division. The North Shore tennis courts are available now, which is amazing. They're available 24 hours a day now down there. The pandemic has saved tennis. Tennis was shrinking and it's growing, much like the golf course has had its 2 best years ever. Because of the ability for people to go out and play and actually socialize. The number one ask here is a letter of agreement for a feasibility study to refurbish the old curling rink, put off the tearing of it down. That facility right there would be 15 to 30 millions in order to rebuild it today. That's a figure, a round ballpark figure provided by the director of community services, Gerald Davis. Perfect location for families to enjoy other activities while family members play pickleball. The concrete surface, which is extremely well made because it was made for curling, would take very minimal number of dollars to prepare it for pickleball courts. Bathrooms not an issue there. So, you know, when you take a look at putting bathrooms in, we know what it costs for the one up at West Bench, and it's not even plumbed into the sewer line. It needs to be cleaned constantly, and I believe it was over $250,000, somewhere around there. There is stored lighting from the Sonora Center, possibly could be used for available for installation. Those lights won't go back in, I believe, into Sonora or Desert Park because the gym, because they are the old style, but they could be used to refurbish the lighting in that old building there. I don't know why I said 8.
Excuse
Pardon
me,
me?
Mr. Bagnall, we allow you 10 minutes to make your presentation, and that is up. Could you quickly wrap up your ask and then we can.
Absolutely. I would like to either lease or go into a partnership with the town for that building. That building, I know people look at it as an eyesore, but the fabric could go right over it. It would repair the building and make it not an eyesore. It'd be like you built a new building there. So the last thing is to enter into an agreement to acquire a land lease and raise the funds to build 4 new courts, raise funds to cover the courts, and raise a roof over the courts, and then raise the funds to put 4 additional outdoor courts, and then based on demand, cover or leave those courts open. So there was what I will do is I'll send a link in to Brianne Hilson so that you have all the files, et cetera, that are a part of this. So do you have any questions?
Thank you very much. I believe this is very similar to the report that you gave to us last year. So we have seen this before and we understand your concern and your passion for pickleball. Thank you very much. And I will just see if anybody from council has any questions for you on this.
Okay, it's not the same as the last presentation because the number one ask then, I believe, was for a lease for the land. This one here, we'd like to use the building. I think it'd be crazy to tear down a building that's usable. You know, based on wanting to put what 30 to 40 million into an aquatic center, and you could end up with a perfect pickleball facility with minimal dollars spent. I guess the amount of money to tear it down could be used to refurbish it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions? No, go ahead, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess if you thought about talking to the people up at Desert Park or the town to maybe put a building up there for pickleball courts, since you're talking about raising all the money and just needed some type of agreement or at least with the town to move forward with that?
We'd be looking at Desert Park would be fine. I think what there was Gina had they put together, there was a couple of pieces of land that were designated. There's one at West Bench. It really is, I believe it's a section between the bathroom building and the baseball park. It's not suitable. It's too small really and there's not enough parking up there for that. As far as the land, I guess to the south end of Desert Park, that was never really targeted. We didn't actually see a piece of property there that was designated to be able to lease it. So I'm just looking for a letter of intent to do that. As far as the building, though, if you take a look, though, without having to raise any money, we could raise the money. If we went into a lease or a partnership with the town for the old curling rink, there's a perfect facility right there. I mean, it's perfect. There's parking there. The bathrooms are there. There's enough room inside to have lockers, etc. And also inside there, we thought about it. We put 6 pickleball courts in there and start some lessons right away. I'm offering our academy, Rip to Rip Pickleball, will do all the lessons for free.
But Brian, don't you understand the curling rink is used by a few hundred people through 4 to 5 months of the year? It's not an old building. It's well used.
I just said the old curling rink, the old museum.
Oh, the museum.
Yeah,
Okay.
museum was a curling.
The old curling rink is the old museum. It was a curling rink, is designated an athletic facility. So it's perfect. It's zoned for it. It's got bathrooms. All it would take is to fabric the outside of the building. It would look like a brand new building.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bagnall. We certainly have all heard your concerns and we appreciate your enthusiasm on this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. So you'll get back to me as regarding whether we're going to enter some kind of negotiation. Will you get back to me?
We will ask staff to deal with this. Yes, thank you. Okay.
Mayor, thank you. Councilors, thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So my assumption is now that we can terminate. No, we can't. We need a motion to move this meeting to the in camera. Am I correct, Mrs. Robinson?
Yes.
Yes. So we will move this, oh, I need
I
to
just-
read this.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that pursuant to section 91E of the community charter, the committee of the whole meeting be closed to the public as the subject matter relates to the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. We have a motion, please, to move. Thank you. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Do we need, direct